Good evening, everyone. I thank you for joining us this evening. My name's Louise Regan. I am the chair of Solidarity with the People of Turkey, but I'm also a national executive member of the National Education Union, and I chair the NEU's International Committee. And the NEU has been involved with working and organising with SPOT from its inception. I'm very proud of the work that we have done with them, and tonight we have organised an excellent online event for you titled From Birmingham to Izmir, Bin Workers Fight. And many of us here in the UK will have seen the Birmingham bin workers strike, and we will have heard from some of those strikers in various meetings we have been at, but many of us will not know about what has been happening in Turkey and the fight back there against what has been happening. And we know that across the globe, actually, there are more and more attacks on workers. Tonight's meeting is here to look at and think about what international solidarity means, how we can work collectively, and how we can support workers in their struggles across the globe. We're really lucky tonight to be joined by two excellent speakers from these disputes. Vedat Çimen is a striker from the municipality, I don't know why I can't say that word, I apologise, cleaner. And Stephen Bissett is a striker from Unite Birmingham Bin Workers. So both very good speakers, and I'm sure we are going to learn a lot from both of them this evening. We are going to ask them a series of questions. They're going to have a chance to respond. Vedat will be translated for us. He'll be speaking in Turkish. So he will speak in Turkish and will be translated. And somebody will translate for Stephen as we go, for Vedat into Turkish as Stephen speaks, so that Vedat knows what Stephen is saying. So hopefully, apart from my mishaps in getting us started, we'll run smoothly from now on. So as I say, we have a few questions we're going to start with. I'm going to start by asking Vedat the question, but it will be the same question to you, Stephen, so you can be thinking about this in terms of the current situation. But our question is, what are or have been your demands in your strike, and what is the current situation in terms of where you are at in the struggle?
Biraz konuş, sonra çevirmeme de fırsat ver. Ara.
Canlı mıyım yoksa siz mi çevireceksiniz?
Sen canlısın. Sen ara verince ben çevireceğim.
Tamam. Öncelikle merhaba. İyi akşamlar herkese. Evet, böyle bir organizasyonu, böyle bir ortamı ayarlayan bütün ekipman arkadaşlara, oradaki işçi dernekli arkadaşlarımıza çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Böyle bir dayanışma içerisinde olduğumuz için, dünya çapında böyle bir işçi sınıfının birlikteliğini, işçi sınıfının dayanışmasını ön plana çıkardığımız için herkese, emeği geçen herkese çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Um, Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for organising this, and thank you to all our worker friends and organisations who are standing in solidarity with us and giving us a platform for global for growing global class solidarity. Devam.
Evet, bizim bir toplu sözleşme süreci vardı. Toplu sözleşme sürecinde uyuşmazlık meydana çıktı. Uyuşmazlıktan kaynaklı sorunumuz şuydu: bizim belediye çalışanları olarak aynı koşullar doğrultusunda çalıştığımız arkadaşlarla farklı şirketlerde olduğumuzdan kaynaklı eşit işe eşit ücret talebinde bulunduk.
Our demands were related to our collective bargaining process. There were some disagreements in this. The problem primarily was that as municipality workers, we were paid differently for exactly the same work because we were employed through the local authority, but with different companies.
Talebimiz doğrultusunda uzlaşıya varamadığımızdan kaynaklı, yani haklarımız, taleplerimiz, isteklerimiz kabul edilmediği takdirde biz de grev sürecine girmek zorunda kaldık.
Because our demands weren't met, we were unable to reach an agreement, and so we were forced to go on strike.
Girmemizin sebebi de bundan kaynaklıydı. Yani buradaki siyasi çekişmeler, siyasi rant kavgaları, koltuk kavgaları kesinlikle işçi sınıfı üzerinden bir olgu yaratmaması adına biz tamamen işçi sınıfına dönük güzel, yaşanılabilir, insanca yaşanılabilir bir toplu sözleşme taslağı hazırlayıp işçi arkadaşlarımızla aynı zamanda bütün alanı gezerek işçi arkadaşlarımızı bilgilendirerek onların önerisiyle bizlerin aynı zamanda katkılarıyla bir güzel bir taslak hazırladık ve bunu sunduk Büyükşehir Belediyesi'ne. Ne yazık ki bu kabul görülmedi ve burada farklı sorunlar ve sıkıntılar meydana çıktı.
So in terms of the context, the political turmoil of the current situation in Turkey, the corruption and nepotism and lack of due process were the context in which they were battling. They very much were working around moving collectively with the workers together, and the demands were around creating a working environment where people could have a salary that they could live on and live humanely. But the agreement, and we collated this agreement and our demands based on our engagement and collaboration with our colleagues, but these demands were rejected.
Evet, aynı zamanda başta belirtmedim de Vedat Çimen aynı zamanda temizlik işçisiyim. Yani bildiğimiz yolları, sokakları, kaldırımları, çöpünü temizleyen birer işçiyim. Aynı zamanda işçi temsilcisiyim. Yani bizim yaptığımız işin arkadaşlarımızın haklarını, hukuklarını ya da belli takım sendikal haklarını savunmak adına birçok arkadaşımızın aynı zamanda kendimizin de yakın çevremizin, dostlarımızın önerisi üzerine bir temsilcilik süreci vardı. Ona katılıp ve yeterli kadar oy aldıktan sonra temsilci seçildik. Bundan kaynaklı devam edeyim mi?
Devam edebilirsin.
Bundan kaynaklı böyle bir sürece girdik. Gerçekten zorlu, sıkıntılı bir süreç. Sosyal medya üzerinden bizim bu grevi bitirme adına işçileri sıkıntıya sokma adına işçileri bu kendilerinin rant kavgasının birer parçası yapma adına bizi çok üzmüştür bu durumlar.
Yeah. I didn't say at the beginning, but at the same time, Vedat Çimen, I am a cleaner. I clean streets and curbsides and public areas for a living, but I'm also a worker representative, and I am involved in representing my colleagues and workers in the fight for legal and other rights. And because of this, we went into, I was involved and went into this process of negotiating and onto the strikes. And it was really difficult. Social media pressure and companies' propaganda and push for their own interest basically created a lot of pressure, sorry to repeat, pressure on us to give up the strikes. And this was very difficult. Devam?
Şimdi biz taşeron süreci de yaşadık arkadaşlar. Yani bizim ilk belediye girişimiz taşeron süreciydi. Taşeron sürecine de zaten karşıyız. Yani tamamen işçinin taşeronsuz çalışma şeklini savunuyoruz. Çalışma yöntemini savunuyoruz. Şu anda da halen taşeron işçi çalıştırılıyor birçok belediyelerimizde. Buna da karşıyız. Buna karşı da gelebilmek için elimizden geldiğince eylemliklere, basın açıklamalarına gerekli davranışlara, tavırlara giriyoruz. Şöyle ki bu süreç bittikten sonra tabii ki uzlaşma sağlanmadığı için grev sürecine girdik. Çöp gerçekten önemli bir şeydir, maddedir. Bunu anladık da, biliyoruz da, bunun bilincindeyiz de. Aynı zamanda ta belediye başkanının gelip Kordon gibi İzmir'in en değerli bölgesi olan Kordon gibi bölgesine gelip eldiven takıp orada çöp toplaması ve bizleri karşısına alıp bizleri tehditvari bir dille uyarması bizleri gerçekten farklı bir boyuta koymuştur.
So this, I just want to say something about the subcontracting arrangements in Turkey. We as cleaning and bin workers have been standing against subcontracting and outsourcing in the municipality, and this is a way of working that we oppose. This is how we are all employed, and we've been fighting around this. We recognise and know the importance of waste collection and public health, and we propagate to make sure this is understood. But during this period, we've realised there has been, I guess, a period of realisation with the Izmir Municipality Council leader coming out onto the streets in an area called İzmir Kordon mu dedin?
Kordon, evet.
Kordon, which is a very important area of the city, with gloves on so like an area of lots of bars and sort of socializing, a popular area for people to hang out, with gloves to clean up the streets in an attempt to break up and undermine the strikes. Devam.
Evet, böyle bir süreçten geçtik. Orada yaptığı hamleler, yaptığı davranışlar gerçekten bizim için şaşılacak bir durumdu. Hiç beklenmediğimiz bir şeydi. Aynı zamanda sosyal medya üzerinden bizim işte şu anda talebimiz mesela eşit işe eşit ücret söylemiyle biz hareket ettik. Toplu sözleşme süreci ve grev sürecinin sonuna kadar bu söylemle geldik. Bu da çok bir meblağ değil. Bugün tekabül ediyor 60 bin lira gibi bir mevzuya ulaşıyor. Fakat bizi sosyal medyadan halkla karşı karşıya bırakarak 80 bin lira, 100 bin lira, 160, 180 bin lira talepleri var. Ben bunları karşılayamam, bunları ödeyemem, benim bütçem yok diye sosyal medyayı, hatta sosyal medyayı kullanarak ve birçok söylem üzerine satın alarak bizi burada halkla karşı karşıya getirmeye çalıştılar. Ki de getirdiler. Halk bize sokaklarda, alanlarda, neticede dışarıda çalışıyoruz. Güneşin altında, yağmurun altında, soğuğun ve sıcağın altında çalışan, ter döken emekçileriz. Bizi bu anlamda işçi görmeyip de tamamen düşman gözüyle bakan bir belediye anlayışına karşıyız ve bunu kabul etmiyoruz. Bizi de bu duruma itmiş oldu.
And these behaviors by the leadership really surprised us. And we've, since the beginning of the collective bargaining and the strike, our demand has been for equal pay and equal work. And all we've really asked for is 60,000 TL, which I'm not sure even commensurates with the actual living wage required. But through social media and various platforms, the local authority and the companies exaggerated these demands to 80, 90, 100, 120k and beyond, and they tried to bring us in a position where we were in conflict with the public. And in some ways they succeeded, because we work outdoors, out on the streets, and we were out and about all the time, and the public really did to some extent turn against us. Devam biraz toparlayalım bir de.
Toparlayalım. Tamam. Şöyle ki evet, bu süreçten sonra evet bizim taleplerimiz eşit işe eşit ücret olmak kaydıyla belediye işçisinin geçmişten bugüne kadar grev pratiği yoktu. Biz tedirgindik, işveren tedirgindi, belediye tedirgindi, sendikalar tedirgindi, genel merkezimiz yani İzmir halkı da tedirgindi. Böyle bir süreç nasıl olur, nasıl yapılır ya da bunun pratik ayaklarını falan çok fazla detaylı bir şekilde tartışmadığımız için işçili arkadaşlarımız da biraz acemi olduğu için ama neticede çok kitlesel bir katılım oldu. Dünya çapında öncelikle İzmir ve Türkiye ve de dünya çapında bir yankı yarattı. Gerçekten işçilerin birliği, işçilerin dayanışması yaşamı yaşatır, mücadeleyi büyütür. Aynı zamanda bütün işçi sınıfına örnek olur olacak şekilde teşkil eder. Neticede böyle bir durum söz konusu oldu ama dediğimiz gibi yani bizi halkla karşı karşıya getirdiği için biz bir yerde artık grevi bitirme kararı aldık. Çok fazla istediğimiz miktarı, rakamı, fiyatı alamadık. Ama mücadelemiz gerçekten de boyutlu bir şekildeydi. Yani hiç aklımıza gelmeyecek kitlelere ulaşıp kitleleri alana döküp orada sesimizi duymaya çalıştık. Tabii ki sosyal medya üzerinden bizi çok vurdular, çok yıprattılar. Biz de daha fazla halkla karşı karşıya gelmemek için mücadeleyi yani grev sürecini bitirmek zorunda kaldık. Farklı nedenler de var tabii bunun içerisinde. Şimdilik böyle ama yine saldırılar devam ediyor.
Okay, so our demand for was always for equal pay and equal work, but even in this context, the council and the trade union and the public and in Izmir really didn't have any strike experience. The public were anxious. We were anxious, and we had no real practical experience of striking, and so we were a bit nervous. But we had such large and widespread participation and support from around the world, and the workers were so invested in the process, and we think it was a really fantastic example of the strength of workers and worker solidarity. However, because we faced we became face to face and potentially in conflict with members of the public through the kind of social media and other campaigns that he's mentioned already, whilst we didn't secure the pay that we wanted, we made a choice to end the strike based on a compromise that really wasn't what we'd asked for. But we do feel we built a movement, and we feel, and our demands remain, and our work will continue.
Bitireyim isterseniz.
Şey-
Şöyle ki evet, burada bir siyasi rantın kavgasını ya da buradaki deyim yerindeyse derler ya, filler tepişir, çimler ezilir. Biz o çimde olmamak için o fillerin tepişmesini de görmemek için elimizden gelen çabayı, dayanışmayı, mücadeleyi bugüne kadar da yaptık. Bugünden sonra da yapacağız. Buradaki sistematik bir olay var. Sendikaları dizayn etmek. Yani var olan böyle ufak da olsa bir ülkedeki duruma karşı tepki koyan, herhangi olumsuzluk, siyasi bir rantın parçası olmayan bir sendikaları dizayna getirmeye çalışmaktır. Biz bunu kabul etmiyoruz. Sonuna kadar bunun mücadelesini vereceğiz. Neticede grevimiz bitti. Çok talep etmediğimiz rakamlar, fiyatlar olmasa bile işçi sınıfının buradaki direnişi, duruşu bizim için çok değerlidir. Biz onu ön plana çıkarıyoruz. Önümüzde daha 2 yıl sonra bir tane toplu sözleşmemiz daha var. Siyasi rantların, siyasi kavgaların hiçbir zaman parçası olmayacağız. Biz işçiyiz, üreteniz, emekçiyiz, emekten yanayız ve emekçinin arkasındayız. Bizim şiarımız budur ve aynı zamanda lafımı bitirmeden önce oradaki işçi arkadaşlarımızın, işçi dostlarımızın, yoldaşlarımızın da mücadelesini selamlıyorum. Buradan. Gönül olarak desteğimi sunuyorum. Elimden gelen ne varsa yeterli olabildim mi olmadım mı bilmiyorum arkadaşlar nezdinde. Sormak istedikleri başka ya da daha farklı şeyler varsa cevap vermeye çalışacağım.
Harika. There is a saying that elephant herds fight and the grass gets trampled on, and we didn't want to be those elephants. We also didn't want to trample on the grass, if the metaphor is understood in terms of, you know, the public being punished in this space or divided. There is an attempt to design unions in the image that the system wants them to be, and we stand opposed to this. We stand as workers together to resist, and our stance is clear in where we are. In 2 years' time, we have another collective agreement, and as workers, we will be building towards that. We are workers, and we stand with workers together here in the working class, and we also support and greet our friends who are resisting in the UK. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Apologies, the translation.
No, the translation was wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for that. That was excellent. And I think just for context, for people that are not aware, you know, Turkey is on the ITUC list. It's one of the 10 worst countries globally in the whole world in terms of workers' rights. And we know there are huge attacks on trade unionists when they take action there. So we think it's tricky here, but actually when you're in Turkey, you risk imprisonment, you risk attacks, you risk losing your job, your livelihood. It is very difficult for Turkish workers. So absolute solidarity to you, Vedat, and all of the workers that have taken action, and we will continue to support you, obviously, from here in the UK, and do all that we can. So we're now going to go to Stephen Bissett. So I've heard Stephen speak a number of times. He's from Birmingham. He's a BIM worker. And many people, even here in the UK, do not understand the struggle of the Birmingham bin workers, and that is why we think it's really important to amplify their struggle so that people understand the huge attack that there is on them, but also that we link up with struggles globally, because we know this isn't just an attack that is happening in the UK on workers, this is a global attack. So I'm really pleased you're here, Stephen. So the same question to you, what are your demands? What's the latest situation? I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.
Hello there. Thank you very much for having me. Like you were saying, just to add to what you were saying, an injury to one is an injury to all. So I'm definitely in solidarity with the brothers and sisters in Turkey who are fighting for basically basic rights, basically basic working rights. So yeah, our demands are pretty simple. I mean, the whole situation is pretty basic. I mean, just like the Turkish guys, but again, at beginning of the year, refuse workers were told that we'd be facing losing anywhere between £6,000 to £8,000, depending where you are on the pay scale. And recently, drivers were told that they'd lose between £10,000 and £12,000. Our demands are simple. All we want is not to lose money and not to lose the grade which they've deleted, which is a health and safety critical role of reversing the trucks into tight spaces, and it acts as a second set of eyes for the driver, reversing in tight spots or double parking, things of that nature. Our demands are quite simple. Nobody can afford to lose a quarter of their salary. You base your life around your wage, your living standards. So to lose a quarter of your money just because top managers or the CEOs have spent millions and millions of pounds, which I mean the employees, we haven't spent the money, so I don't see why we should have to pay. Just like Turkish workers, I mean, all we want is a fair pay. Where we're at now, we're still our union are still basically in talks with the council, trying to negotiate some sort of a deal, some sort of resolute. But things are looking a bit bleak. But at the same time, the refuse workers of Birmingham are standing strong, because I mean there's cuts that are happening up and down the country, whether that be pay cuts or job cuts entirely. There's a lot going on in the city at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Stephen, so much for that. I mean, I have to say, the first time I listened to you speak about this, I was really shocked by the amount of money. I mean, I just hadn't really recognized the significance of that. And a quarter of there is no worker in this country that can afford to lose a quarter of their salary. I just wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about the council, because I think they're a Labour council, and you would expect that a Labour council would be delivering a bit better for workers. I don't know what your view is on that.
Yeah, I mean, without saying too much, because I mean, at the end of the day, I still want a job to go back to, hopefully. But yeah, the way I see it, majority of these people that are in power, they don't. It's like they have no empathy. They just have like money and profits over people, sort of thing. So again, the way I see it, we're the working class. We're people who live in these cities that we work in, sort of thing, and we spend the money in the city. So if you pay cut in the people who are at the front line, in turn you cut in on the city, and then if that happens everywhere, then it happens to the whole country, and then we're not as strong as we once was. And I mean, I'm not from this country. I'm originally from France, sorry. And yeah, I mean, I've lived here ever since I was 5. I've been here for over 28 years now. So yeah, I've come to love England and love Birmingham, the city that I work and live in.
No, and we love you being here, Stephen, and we are really committed to supporting you. And yeah, I just know I've seen Unite criticise really the council, because I think Unite as a union are very cross that the council is not trying to resolve this, and it's good that your union is backing you on this. I'm really pleased that it's continuing, and I think in the UK here we need to do everything we can to publicise it, to make sure we're supporting the strike fund and getting people out to your picket lines and supporting this to make it clear, really, because I always think if we let these things happen, they will just move on to another set of workers and do exactly the same, you know. So I'm always of the view, do not let things happen to other people that you don't want to happen to you. You know, we have to fight together, and none of us can afford to lose a quarter of our salary. Working people are really struggling to make ends meet in this country, and I know in Turkey too, and globally, you know, there is a real problem. So thank you so much, and you know, you have our absolute solidarity, and we will continue to work with you. I just wanted to move on. I just wondered if we could talk about sort of barriers that people and challenges that people have faced. So I think I'll go to Stephen first this time, if that's okay. So Stephen, have there been any major barriers, challenges, anything that you think has really made the struggle more difficult?
Just like the brothers and sisters in Turkey, trying to change the narrative from what the media portray. I mean, the media portraying us to be these thugs that are holding the city ransom, and oh look, there's 50 tons of waste out in the streets. But there's two ways of looking at that. You can either see it as, oh my God, the city is really, really like got 30 tons of waste, or you can see it as that's how much refuse workers and even street cleaners pick up on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they're looking to actually shape the whole of the council, so eventually they will go on to street cleaners, such as the gentleman in Turkey. But because they know the bin men are the rowdiest out of the bunch, they know that if they can get us to fall in line, everybody else will fall in line too, sort of thing. But again, if they can come, like you were saying earlier, if they can come for people who literally work, who get paid, sorry, by the government, then who's to say people in private sectors are not gonna face these same cuts that we're facing? Because I mean, again, if I literally get paid by the government, then who's to say a single mother stacking shelves in Morrison's, Sainsbury's, any shop, any kind of business, they'll cut her wage too, because they'll say, well, hold on, the bin men just cut theirs, and all the whole council have just had a quarter of their wage just gone, so we can do that, and you know what, we'll keep their wage. And they'll just, yeah, it'll just, it's very unfortunate that we have to pay for these rich people's lifestyles, yet when we're already struggling as it is. And I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful. But thank God to the unions and trade unions. I mean, without them, workers would either have to accept or reject the offer and go get yourself another job, but then you have to restart either a whole sector again, or whether it's in a new sector but a different job. It's nobody wants to do that. I mean, especially if you've been at your workplace for several years, or even if you've been there for 2 months, but you truly enjoy your job, you wouldn't really want to be forced to move. But I mean, that's what these people are trying to do. But it's up to us to get numbers together, to basically have conversations just like we're having now on Zoom. Have a nice dialogue with members of the public, those naysayers, and just make them understand, make it relatable. Say, would you be able to lose any money? Would you like to go to work to basically be better off on someone that's like on benefits or something like that? I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful. You go to work to have some sort of a good lifestyle, not to count pennies and have to fight injustice and whatnot. But unfortunately, it's what we have to do as a whole and as a collective.
No, thanks, Stephen. And I think you're right. I mean, the sort of mainstream media portrayal has been very negative, but it has been really inspiring to see some of the social media posts that have come out from the community who are absolutely committed to supporting you and the work you are doing, because they recognize that. And I think for some people, it will be a complete, there are people who potentially will lose their homes, will lose everything because of these cuts. It's not, people think it's just some sort of minimal thing, but it is going to have a devastating impact on communities. And I think that is why it's really important that we support it. Okay, thank you so much for that. So Vedat, if I ask you the same question, what really have been the challenges for you as you have gone along? I mean, I know the situation in Turkey is extremely difficult for trade unionists. So, but have there been specific things or things that you think the international community could help with?
Bizi vatandaşla karşı karşıya getirmeleri, esnafla, dışarıdaki neticede dışarıda çalışan işçileriz. Yani sokakta birebir vatandaşla diyalog halindeyiz, birebir temas halindeyiz. Metro istasyonlarında, belediye otobüslerinde, tramvaylarda, sonrasında işte toplu taşıma araçlarının tümünde biz insanlarla sürekli sıkıntı, tartışma, diyalog halinde olduğumuz için bu sosyal medya ayağını çok iyi kullanarak bizi bu süreçte karşı karşıya getirdiler. Öncelikle sorun ve sıkıntılarımız bunlar. Sonrasında ailelerimizle karşı karşıya geldik, çocuklarımızla karşı karşıya geldik, etrafımızdaki insanlarla, dostlarımızla karşı karşıya getirdik. Bunu da çok iyi kullandılar. Yani burada işçiye ve sendikaya ciddi bir saldırı var, ciddi bir asimilasyon politikası var. Çok fazla böyle teorik içeriklere de girmek istiyorum aslında. Süreci anlatırken daha dediğiniz gibi çok eskilere, derinlere, sendikanın çıkışını, bu tarihlere gelişini falan çok iyi değinmek gerekir ama çok uzar diye düşünüyorum. Ben kısa kısa değinmek istiyorum. Biraz önce arkadaşımın da belirttiği gibi maaşlarımızı geçmişte bir kertede yani tek seferde alırken şimdi 3 parçaya böldüler. Ülkenin, dünyanın yaşam koşulları bellidir. Hayat pahalılığı bellidir. Bir faşizan, bir faşist saldırı var bütün dünya genelinde. İşçi sınıfını dizayne etmek, işçi sınıfını yok saymak, işçi sınıfı üzerinden rant elde etmek için elindeki bütün imkanları zorluyor bu işverenler. Bizler evet bu maaşlarımızı üçe bölmesi ya da sosyal haklarımızı zamanında almaması adına böl parçala yönet taktiği var ya sürekli kapitalizm ve emperyalizmin ürettiği bu tarz oyunlar. Onu da burada çok iyi ayağını kurarak yaptılar. Ben biraz sesim ya.
Yes, tamam böyle iyi devam ederim ben. So the biggest issue we had was around social media. As I mentioned, it was really well used against us to undermine us. At the end of the day, we engage with residents, local businesses and other sectors all the time. And we were constantly being faced with issues when we were out on public transport. We faced challenges with our own kids, our families, our friends, as a result of the attacks and the social media posts that were constantly being shared to undermine us and the strikes. This is obviously also in the context of the wider trade union attacks on trade unions and the assimilation politics that have dominated in Turkey. These are, for historical reasons that are complex and would take a long time. I won't go into, but so there's, another really big issue for us was our wages were in the past paid in one single pay, and now we get paid in 3 separate payments. So everything's become really difficult for us. Globally, we're obviously seeing this increased fascism and kind of right-wing kind of politics and the sidelining of the working class and exploiting and pushing every means to exploit further the working class to increase profit. And this policy in this context, these policies and pushes to divide and rule have been very successful, unfortunately, in Turkey, but we're still battling against that. Devam.
Evet, dediğim gibi kesintiler ve ödemeler sürekli olunca neticede temsilci olduğum için bize sürekli telefonlar geliyor. Kirasını ödeyemeyen arkadaşlar, kredisini ödeyemeyen arkadaşlar, elektriğini, suyunu ve çocuğunun ailesinin masrafını ödemeyen arkadaşlar bize böyle sistemkar davrandığı için yani bunlar bizim böyle kesintilerle ya da parça parça haklarımızı ödemediğinden kaynaklı bizi zaruri bir şekilde böyle bir sürece ittiler. Bizim istediğimiz, bizim koşulumuz değildi ama bunlar böyle zaruri bir şekilde ittiler bizi.
And in the context of cuts and pay pressures that people are facing across Turkey, we were constantly barraged with by people who can't pay their bills, can't pay for their children, can't pay their healthcare, can't pay their rents. And we really struggled in the face of other people also struggling in those contexts, and we were forced really into a corner.
Şöyle ki bu süreçten sonra tabii ki sosyal medyayı çok iyi kullandıkları için yani troller aldıkları için troll satın almışlar. Mesajlar, yorumlar. Tabii ki bilinçsiz bir toplum olunca, bilinçsiz bir halk, bilinçsiz bir kitle olunca nezdinde bize karşı saldırılar daha atmaya başladı. Ama şöyle bir durum da var. Gerçekten sürecin hakimi olan, işçi sınıfının yanında olan yazar, çizer, işte şair, sinema sanatçısı gibi arkadaşlarımız da, dostlarımız da bize bu süreçte desteklerini sundular. Gerek sosyal medya üzerinden, gerek videolar üzerinden sundular. Bizleri o duruma, şöyle bir duruma soktular. Artık aldığımız ücretler çok yüksekmiş. Fakat biz daha fazlasını istiyormuşuz. İşte halk sokakta bizi görürken nalet olsun size işte 100 bin lira maaş alıyorsunuz, halen neyin peşindesiniz gibi böyle terimlerle, saldırılarla karşı karşıya kaldık. Bizler de şöyle bir yol çizdik. Akabinde yatan maaşlarımızın mobil üzerindeki hesabımıza yatan parayı sosyal medya hesaplarımızdan paylaşma gereği duyduk.
After this process, they had trolls and all sorts of means online to undermine us, and the public just aren't aware enough and knowledgeable enough to challenge those trolls and those sound bites. But whilst we had lots of academics and other artists that did stand up for us, this wasn't enough. But often, the social media posts really made out as though we were earning £100,000 a year, and people attacked us, thinking that we were living luxurious lives. And so we began posting our salaries and pay slips online to evidence what we were earning. Okay.
Evet, dediğimiz gibi bu süreç tamamlandıktan sonra toplu sözleşme bir şekilde imzalandı. Yani çelişkilerle dolu bir toplu sözleşmemiz imzalandı. Fakat sonrasında tekrar durmayıp şimdi de işçi çıkarmalarına kadar gitti. Verimsiz işçi çatısı altında işçi çıkarıyorlar. Bu sürece katkı sunan, bu sürecin kıyısından köşesinden tutan, bu sürecin destekçisi olan arkadaşlarımızı, yoldaşlarımızı bir şekilde bir kılıf bularak, bir bahane bularak işten çıkarmaya kadar gitti. Şimdi de işçi kıyımı başladı. Biz şimdi bunun önlemini alacağız. Bununla ilgili hamleler yapacağız.
Now, we signed a collective agreement. It was full of issues, lots of problems, and lots of disagreements still remaining. And having done that, now the municipality are sacking people on the pretense of failure to fulfill responsibilities, not lack of productivity, and they're targeting, the radical, the workers with multiple excuses. But we will continue fighting that.
Okay, thank you.
Var soru, fazla uzatmayın.
Okay. Başka soru var.
Karşılıklı böyle diyalog şeklinde olursa daha iyi.
Yeah, I'd like to be in dialogue.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I thought a couple of things you said were very interesting, actually, because here in the UK, social media, we are often used to put forward our message where it appears there, social media is used to attack workers, which is very interesting. And I suppose the other thing, and I'm going to come on to a further question for both of you, just a final question, is what you talked about in terms of people feeling they had to go back because of the impact that it was having on communities and families, and thinking about what more we can do in the international community. We do a lot of work here in the UK. We have strike funds, we build for those, we sort of send money to support workers so that they can continue their struggle. And whether there is more we could do as the international community to support workers in Turkey and globally, actually, who are taking action but who don't have access to that sort of support. So I'm going to go to my final question because we are going to finish at 8. So we've got 10 minutes left. But I do really just want to ask this question because I think it's a very important question. Because I think often we look at our own situations and we're living in our own, what is happening for us. But actually, as I've said multiple times tonight, what is happening here is happening globally, and international solidarity for me is more important now than ever. So I would be very interested to hear from both of you about whether you have received much international support in terms of messages or, financial support, and also why you both think international solidarity is important, because I think we have to get that message out more and more, because as you get under attack, you become very sort of insular and thinking about your own situation, but actually being outward looking and thinking about what we can do more collectively, I think is a really important message for people in the show. So, Stephen, can I go to you first on that one?
Yeah, so international support. We've actually had we've had a story on us in Sydney, I believe. We've had a news from Japan, and recently, I think when was it? Yesterday or the day before, when we was in town, a French, because I'm actually French, a French channel came down and started speaking. They're like, "Oh, we're looking to do an interview or whatnot." But yeah, the support has been pretty nice, but that's just because we've basically had to counter attack what the media had been portraying us to be, sort of thing. So that's one thing I would definitely advise the guys in Turkey, that are striking. That you have to counteract everything that they do, otherwise it's a lost battle. And yeah, you just have to definitely keep fighting, sort of thing. And it's unfortunate that any of us have to do this sort of thing, but again, there's power in the numbers. There's powers in the numbers, definitely. So again, for CEOs, it's a numbers game. They put profits before the people. So we've got to do the opposite and get the people on the same side, and just tell them your truth and just make it relatable. I mean, that's all we've been doing it, and workers worldwide, UK wide and worldwide, I'm guessing also. But then also, even people who don't work, people who are literally jobless, have said, you know what, like we couldn't afford to lose, like say, £100 on their benefits because they wouldn't be able to simply afford, so simply live. So the international support has been quite great, to be honest. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I sort of heard that there'd been quite a bit of international support,
There
which is
had
really
been,
good. It's really
yeah,
good that you've had international support, and we need to continue to build that. And as you say, we are the many and they are the few, and we
exactly.
will win, because workers, if we unite together, we can win. We just have to think about ways to do that. So thank you. It's a really important message.
But our unions need to talk with other unions around the globe, and then hope, because obviously, again, if they was to get all of their members together, I mean, my union, Unite, has 1 million members. I'm sure there's probably about 10 other unions in the UK alone. So collectively, that's probably about a good 5 million members there. And then in the world, you've got a couple million members dotted all around the world. So I feel like if we connect somehow, especially with these apps that we've got for free at our fingertips, social media apps, we can cross link like we're doing now. But yeah, just get stories out there, and yeah, just overthrow the media basically, and tell the people, look, this is the truth and this is what we're standing for, and this is all we want is a fair deal. Look, like the gent in Turkey said, they had to post their wages to tell the people, no, we're not getting that 100,000 a year, we're getting such and such amount, which is unfortunate that they had to do that. But you've got to counter attack these guys who have got unlimited funding, lawyers and all that kind of stuff, and we don't have that, but we've got people. So yeah, we just have to make it relatable. Sorry for rambling.
No, you're not rambling at all. It was great, Stephen. And I have to say, since I heard you speak at NEU conference, I literally go around now every time somebody says anything about the Birmingham bin strikers, I say, would you accept losing £8,000 off your wages? That's my first message to them. And everybody goes, no. And I go, that's why they're on strike. So, you know, I think we just have to be very direct with people, because that message isn't getting out. You know, it's always told that it's workers being unreasonable. It's workers fighting to be able to live. And we have to keep fighting that. So, okay, lovely. Thank you so much, Stephen. And Vedat, so over to you. Have you had any international solidarity, and what more can the international community do to support you?
Geliyor.
Did you hear that, Chinar, what I asked? Sorry.
Yes, I got your question.
Okay, great.
Devam edebilirsin.
İki tane temsilci arkadaş kısmı aldık. Ama ben yetersiz buluyorum. Neden yetersiz buluyorum? Çünkü dünya çapında işçi sınıfının gerçekten ayaklanması, birliktelik, bir gücü varması için daha çok çaba, daha çok dayanışmaya gerek duyduğunu hissediyorum. Bunun için de bu bir adımdır. Bu bir ilk olabilir ya da güzel bir değerlendirmedir. Bundan sonraki bütün dünyadaki işçi sınıfının eylemlikleriyle, mücadeleleriyle ilgili daha çok birliktelik, daha çok dayanışma olması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. Bunun da ön ayaklarını bizler de sizler de aynı şekilde örersek, burada bir pekiştirme yaparsak, ortak bir düşüncede, bir paydada katılırsak daha güzel olacağını düşünüyorum, daha verimli olacağını düşünüyorum. Aynı zamanda sosyal medya dediğimiz, evet, onlar çok iyi kullandı. Biz belki çok iyi kullanamadık. Ama ne yazık ki dünyada da ve ülkemizde de sistematik bir saldırı var. Yani bütün yayın kuruluşları, bütün gazeteler, haber kanalları yönetici, ülkenin yönetici bazında elinde olduğu için yeterli kayda yeterli bir şekilde bizlere sunulmuyor. O yüzden eksik olabiliriz. Bunun da daha iyi bir çalışmasını yaparak, daha güzel ortak bir çalışma yaparak uluslararası bazda aynı noktada buluşursak inanıyorum ki daha güzel günler bizi bekliyordur.
Okay. So international solidarity. So firstly, the background noise is a call to prayer. It's he has no control over the noise. International solidarity helps us grow, helps us build a better world. And we did receive some international solidarity and support and messages. I was recently invited to speak on on Commune TV, but really, I believe it wasn't enough, and that we should collectively all be doing more to build international solidarity. This may be a first step and a positive development in the way that we're working. And we should build this further. We hope to weave the work, what you do and what's happening all over the world with other trade unions and workers, to find common ground and just be more fruitful in the way that we build solidarity and resist. We may not have used social media very well, but we're also very conscious that there's this global attack on the working class and on the working people as a whole. And we may have made a few mistakes on the social media front and maybe in tactically, but we will continue to resist and we'll learn, and we believe that we will be able to build for a better future. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that. And it certainly wasn't a criticism of your campaign. It's just
Sosyal
interesting
medya konusunda sana karşı.
to hear how things are different in different parts of the globe. You know, so here social media is very positive, but as it's how we sort of build our campaigns. And maybe we need to think about how we link up with you to try and support you in terms of getting positive messages out there. And using social media to build those campaigns, because I certainly know that has happened with the Birmingham bin strikers, but many campaigns here in the UK. And I certainly think, I know, for example, Day-Mer raised £300 for the Birmingham bin strikers. I think there are more things we could be doing here to raise money for global struggles, particularly in Turkey, given the situation that you are facing. So I think that is something we need to collectively take away and think about. So look, I said we were finishing at 8. It's 8 o'clock. I really, really want to thank both of our speakers, Vedat and Stephen. They have been amazing. It's been, again, a privilege to hear from both of you and hear your stories of struggle, for us to be able to think about what more we can do. And as Stephen has said, as Vedat has said, you know, we are a global community of workers, and when we fight together, we can win together. So we just have to keep fighting, keep standing up to those attacks on us, and standing in solidarity with each other. So
solidarity to the Turkish workers.
Solidarity to all of you. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I was truly thank you so much for